Hello dear students, welcome to part 3 of the video series on equality. Today we are going to talk about the three dimensions of equality. The first dimension is political equality. So it means granting equal citizenship to all the members of the uh, state. So which means that it's not like you have a hierarchy of citizens like first grade citizen, second grade citizen. So, in some countries, there is this hierarchy that certain population is considered first grade citizen, while other population is called second grade citizen. So, in political equality, one nation should not engage in such things. So, it means that all people should get equal citizenship. Now, this is in order to provide them necessary rights to enable to develop themselves and participate in the affairs of the state. So, first is to provide certain rights like right to life, right to property, right to livelihood, right to education, right to healthcare, all these to the citizens so they can develop themselves as human beings, so they can develop their potential. And second is participate in the affairs of the state. So, under this one means that the citizens should get the right to cast their vote and to also contest in elections. So, both aspects of the election system they should take part in. But in spite of this, considerable differences can exist because of differences in the resources and opportunities available to citizens in the social and economic spheres. So again, in spite of all this political equality, there can be some kind of inequality because of differences in social and economic spheres. So, for example, even if one person has is free to participate in elections and contest in elections, they might see that um there is a particular social caste or social class that is dominant in an area, and just because they simply don't belong to that caste or class, they are not able to win elections in that area, or they are facing a lot of unfair difficulties in contesting and winning elections in that area. So this is due to the social inequality, correct? Certain classes and certain castes enjoy more respect in the society, so it will be easier for them to contest and win elections. Then the same is true for economic spheres. So, mm, like in today's political world, it is very difficult to contest elections if you are a poor candidate, because elections have today become a costly business. uh, People need to spend a lot of money to first get the ticket from a political party, then they need to spend money to bribe the voters or at least a section of the voters, because there's this popular expectation that the candidate will offer free booze, free food and free cash to the voters in order to get their vote. And you also need to spend heavily on your advertisement, all these things. Right now, if you can see, then in Bihar elections are going to happen, and the ruling party in the center, that is BJP, it has invested in 72,000 LED screens which they are going to put up all over the state to campaign for the elections. Now, a lot of people are saying that if they had so much money, then why did not they use that money to help the migrant laborers during the crime COVID situation? So that is a very different question. But the top issue here is that like that many LED screens will cost a lot of money. So of course, not every political party and political candidate can do that. So again, political equality somewhere is diminished in this case. I will open this link for you guys to read. So the link says that the male political establishment must share more space with its women. So this is a May 2019 last year article. So this election, as with elections before, has been the usual. I think you guys can pause the video here and read this. So this is not a particularly Indian phenomena. We have seen it in many other countries, including in Trump's America. The minute women come forward to compete in politics, they face a backlash of serious proportions. These include abuse in public arenas and online and even physical attacks. Mercifully, we have not had physical violence against women candidates this election. Women may be making an impact in public life more than ever in India, but this has not translated into gender political influence. We have a women foreign minister and defense minister, but the general impression is that it is the men who take the big decisions in these ministries. When Balakot happened, there was not much evidence of the defense minister playing an active role. So again, it shows that women in Indian politics are still on the fringe, and a lot needs to be done before women can become prominent faces in politics. The second is social equality. So, political equality often needs to be supplemented by equality of opportunities. Just a second. So, people belonging to different groups and communities should have a fair and equal chance to compete for those goods and opportunities. So, again, it means that political equality is not enough. In the last slide, also, I discussed that sometimes political equality can be diminished due to social and economic inequalities. So, we need to make sure that all the social communities and classes and castes have a fair and equal chance to compete for the resources that are available. So, if by resources I mean jobs, then all castes and communities should have equal opportunity in getting those jobs. Now, again, I will tell you that positive discrimination is not wrong. By here, I mean equal chance, I mean that everybody should have a fair chance. Correct? Now, guaranteed minimum conditions of life to all the members of the society, that is, adequate health care, opportunity for good education, and adequate nourishment, and minimum wage. So these are the at least four basic minimum things that we need to fulfill for our citizens, which means that so affordable healthcare must be provided to all the citizens equally without discrimination. All citizens have a right to good education. If they can afford, they can go to private schools, but if they cannot, then government must provide good schools like in Delhi they are doing. Adequate nourishment must be provided to all the citizens. For this, the government needs to invest funds in food procurement and then food distribution, and a minimum wage should be fixed in the state so that nobody can be exploited, because poor people can always be exploited and told to work in much less money. But if you have a minimum wage that is fixed, then those exploitations cannot happen. Social inequality can also arise due to social customs. So again, an example of this, I think I would like you to pause the video and think. An example from my side would be that women right now uh, are very less represented in on the workforce and the educational sphere. So again, a reason this can be because social historically the society has treated women very unfairly. Women have been assigned the roles of mother and caregiver, and they have been stripped of all their career and future expectations. The only expectation they can have is to get married and have kids, and they have to spend their whole lives in the four walls of the house. So again, that has led to a lot of social inequalities in the society, and that is why we need to do something to eradicate that. Now, I will open this Wire article for you to read, then you will be able to understand it. So Muslims at bottom of higher education ladder alongside Adivasis. Data shows that Muslims in southern states enroll in higher education far more than in north. which can be attributed to affirmative action in the South. Affirmative action means reservation. Now, despite almost trebling in the decade ending 2010 from 5.2 to 13.8%, the rate of Muslim enrollment in higher education trailed the national figure of 23.6%, other backward classes 22.1, scheduled caste 18.5, scheduled tribes lagged Muslims by 0.5%, which means 13.3%. The rate of enrollment is described as percentage of actual enrollments in higher education regardless of age in a given academic year to the 18 to 23-year-old population in higher education in that year. Right? So again, if you pause the video and look at this data, you can understand that the representation of Muslims in higher education is way less compared to their population. So again, you can pause this video and look at this data. So should reservation be extended to Muslims? This is not an easy question to answer in a nation declared secular by its constitution. Educational institutions are disallowed from discriminating between students on religious grounds. However, states can tweak constitutionally mandated reservation provisions to provide for the advancement of any socially and educationally backward classes of citizens or for the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes. When such reservations have been made for Muslims in over and above the few Muslim castes included in the OBC list, such as in Kerala, Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh, the representation in higher education is 3 times the rate in non-minority institutions up north according to Indian Muslims and Higher Education Study of select universities in North and South India. So again, this says that if you provide reservations to Muslims, then the representation in higher education can improve, as has happened in the southern states of India. So this is an example of social inequality in the country. Last is economic inequality. So it means significant differences in wealth, property or income between individuals or classes. So it not just means income, but it also means property and wealth. So property and wealth is something that people acquire from their ancestors. So again, people who have a privileged family, they will acquire more wealth from their ancestors, and based on that wealth they can get good education and good jobs also, so they will have better income. There are two ways to measure the relative difference between the richest and the poorest groups, or estimate the number of people who live below the poverty line. So again, it's very difficult to define the poverty line, but different states and countries have their own methods of describing what is the poverty line. The first is, of course, measure the relative difference between the richest and the poorest groups. So if you see that the richest are living a life of luxury while the poor are even not able to meet their basic necessities, then again you can see that there is a lot of poverty in the state. There is need to make available equal opportunities to people, so at least give those who have talent and determination the chance to improve their condition. Of course, not all members of the disadvantaged community might have the talent and determination to improve their condition. Some may lack talent and determination, they will just accept their fate. But of course, there will be certain people who want to improve their condition and the social handicaps are coming in their way. So the state needs to take some actions, positive actions, in order to facilitate the development of such individuals. Then there's the term called entrenched inequality. So this is an inequality which remains untouched over generations. They are more dangerous for a society. So again, the condition of Dalits in India, because they have been traumatized and harassed and discriminated for generations after generations, so that inequality in India is entrenched inequality, and those are very dangerous because such high levels of inequality in society can always lead to disruption and violence in the society. So with this, I will end this lecture. In the next video, we'll talk about how can we promote equality.